Welcome to the latest away league match preview of the 25-26 season here on Stones TV and the Maidstone United podcast, where we look ahead to a trip to Slough Town. So, to a busy week on the pitch, a trip to Farnborough saw a Gilbert brace to put a smile on your face, and then the 3-0 home win against lowly Eastbourne. They did have their new manager bounce at Maidenhead, but couldn't maintain said bounce at the Gallagher. First home win and goals here for 2 months, Nigel, so relief all round. At a top 7 spot as it stands. Hashtag long way to go, mind.
Exactly, but it's like we were saying last week, or we've said it a few times. A week's a long time in football, isn't it?
Very.
Do you know what I mean? It's just lifted that whole mood, isn't it? I think it's been mentioned in the local media as well this past week. But Taylor Foran coming in, and then obviously Paps coming back as well. It's just changed the whole sort of look of the team, isn't it? We're a lot more solid in defence now, and 3 assists over the weekend, wasn't it? So and that's not including the assist to the second goal. Oh, it's not the second goal, the first goal. Sorry, when we crossed it to the back post.
I mean, everybody played a part in that first.
Yeah, when Corn started it, didn't he, and made that ball through. Perhaps made the run, put it in. Gilbert headed it back down, and Tanga got the goal. And sometimes they're the best kind of goals, aren't they? Yeah. Because you've literally carved the opposition open, and that's just the difference that he makes to us, isn't it? And it's like we were saying on the Dagenham commentary. Just his presence on the pitch makes him an asset because he attracts attracts like 2-3 players sometimes, and they come across, and proved again with that second goal, which Dion Moore got in. He raises everybody's game as well because from Dion Moore, he's tirelessly running, but if you get to that near post, that cross is coming in. Yeah. And he didn't have to do anything. It was such a powerful cross that all he had to do, any contact on that, and that's going in the net, isn't it? Which is what he duly did. And I've seen sort of a few sort of tweets that, shall we say, come out from both Farnborough and Eastbourne, sort of trying to big themselves up. And there was one funny one, wasn't there, with the Farnborough game, where the guy was saying, drawing like the non-straightest line you could possibly imagine, and saying that one of our players was offside, and if that wouldn't have gone in, they was never in the game, was they? From kick-off, they was never in the game, Farnborough.
Dodo springs to mind, doesn't it?
And then Eastbourne, as girl, saying, it was never a 3-0 game, and but it was.
Could have taken our chances. Could have been plenty more than that.
Of course, it could have been. And the thing is, what they're saying, I saw a few sort of like on the Eastbourne tweets, and even in their local press, saying it wasn't a 3-0 game, and it was a few missed passes, and we took our chances. But that's just we were just so dominant against Eastbourne. Almost they're so dominant, but the press was working really well. So if you're pressing, you're going to force the teams into mistakes, which is what was happening. And it was a stat last year as well, when we was like in December, when we were sort of like all them games where we was winning all those games. We had the best sort of from defence to attack ratio, converting our chances in the league. That doesn't come by accident. That's again what George has talked about in his post-match interviews. That's working on that. And I was looking back at the Farnborough highlights again today as well, and Jeffy had that same sort of early in that game on thing by just being in that middle there, by just being in that right position, and it's all about what position you're going to be in when the ball comes in. And if you've got people like Paps and Carvalho when he's fit as well, that 9 times out of 10 that ball's going to come in. You can get in that right position and you can gamble on that, and you can 9 times out of 10 you're going to get your rewards, aren't you? So it's all good stuff, and hopefully we can continue that this Saturday at Slough, where it's not really been a happy hunting ground, has it, of late, but
the confidence is building, so it's as good a time as any is now.
Yeah, but then it's saying that, but just the caveat was that, like, we literally went to them the weekend before we went to Ipswich, didn't we? And you'd think, at our highest point, we still couldn't go there and get the result. And but it's a different season, and fingers crossed we can turn that around.
Exactly. So some breaking Stones transfer news hit us. That's the departure of Jesse Nabrasi, who's left the club. The club thanked Jesse for his efforts during his time with the Stones. Wish him the best for the future. We both personally echo those sentiments. Nigel is a lovely young man, big smile and even bigger heart. Your thoughts on his time at the club?
Yeah, I mean, he was one of those that came in pre-season, didn't he, and showed a lot of effort and a lot of guile kind of thing, and he earned himself a deal, didn't he? But you know, he just hasn't really, you know, he's had that chance and just a couple of, I think he had that Hemel Hempstead where he was in a position to score and he skied it, and game and getting that Chelmsford game as well, you know. So yeah, it's just it's just the way that we are, aren't we? You know, he's obviously wants to get more minutes under his belt, and that's not going to be at Maidstone, unfortunately for him. But you know, that's football, isn't it? You move on, you say thank you, and wish him the best of luck.
Indeed. So to the departures from Slough and Charlie Horlock, Odie Alpha, Francis and Marty, Jim Mal Prosper, Dan Bayliss, Josh Jackman, he was the departing club captain, and Kwadwo Bugiai Kiai all left. Ollie Spicer and Owen Rennie departed for universities in the US of A. Guy Hollis left the club after making over 300 appearances over 3 spells. Lewis Mikio departed for Australia. Bonza. Goalie Ryan North signed for Marlow on dual reg for this upcoming season. John Gilbert departed for the Stones. He's been doing all right recently, I've heard. Both Edon Pruti and David Ogbonna transferred to Sutton United. I'm sure one of those got a very late goal the other week for Sutton, if memory serves me right. And Slavi Spasov signs for Southend United. So you can see from these departures, Nigel, they've taken on board players from lower divisions and they end up sending them higher up the pyramid. So your thoughts on those names that have departed so far this season?
I mean, that's what Scott Davis is working with, isn't he? He's not, you know, obviously they're a part-time club. He's an ex-professional footballer. I don't know if he's on a full-time contract there, but I'd imagine he's that's sort of his only sort of job sort of thing, and you know he lives local to the club now, and yeah, that's just his way, isn't it? And he's been doing that for the last few years now, hasn't he? You know, getting these players in and developing them on, and yeah, we've been the benefactors of that before. You know, obviously Temi was there last season and he came to us, and now he's gone on to Eastleigh, so he's come to us via them. And it's a good grounding for these players. You know, they're your archetypal sort of mid-table team, aren't they? And like I said there in the review there, we've not had a good record against them, and you know that just proves that they just know they've just got a game plan. They can. It's not just us, to be fair. You know, they you know, because I say they're a mid-table side, and they've got a few scalps over the years, and that's just what they do. I mean, last year I think they really dicked Worthing. I think at one stage, didn't they? 4-1 or something like that. I think it was. Towards the back end of the season when they was going for the title, so you know that's obviously the way they set up, and it's good grounding for these players. And you know, you're saying there about Pooty scoring at the weekend. I think Spasov's got a goal at the weekend as well. He's certainly got the minutes at Southend now, and he's you know, he's finding his feet, and it just goes to prove, you know, if you've got that good education behind you, sometimes half the battle, isn't it? Because if you're grounded and you know you've got the ability and you've got the skills, you know, you can just really push on. So yeah, and I'm sure there'll be a few gems in there, you know, as we look to the team, what they've sort of got their eyes on sort of developing this coming season as well.
Let's have a look at them then. So to the goalkeepers, and Adam Dubois signed for this upcoming season after he had an ACL tear that kept him out from Eastbourne Borough most of last season. He was previously of Hampton and Richmond, don't you know? He conceded 5 on final day here during the 23-24 season. At the time of writing, he has 4 clean sheets in his 15 appearances in all competitions so far this season. And Oliver Webber joined the club in October as cover for the aforementioned Dubois due to a suspension. 25-year-old shot stopper joined after a spell with Woking in the National League. So Nigel, a consistent number 1, and it'll be interesting to see if Webber can push Dubois this season.
Don't know too much about him, but you know, again, it's a solid number 1, and they've got that years of experience behind them, or seasons of experience behind them at this level. So again, we've always said it, you know, it's always a good combination to have a resident number 1 and somebody that's going to push that number 1, and they can sort of bounce off of each other, and you know, because like we say, you have that number one, but it's good to sort of have somebody to work with, isn't it? It's a very solitary sort of job if you've got,
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever know. I think
exactly.
it's a song.
Yeah. So it's obviously, as I say, it's obviously working for them because they've been successful over a number of seasons now.
So to the defence, and ex-Stone Reece Greenwich signed in the summer after 3 seasons with us here at the Gallagher. Peter Oyerman signed from Folkestone Invicta. He scored once already this season. That was the equaliser at home to Enfield Town at the end of August. Tyrese Dice signed for a second spell after leaving Maidenhead. Scott Davies, the player manager, he was retained once more for his services on and off the pitch. He's already scored 1 goal this season, a free kick in their 3-2 win at Hampton and Richmond. Aaron White, an academy graduate, signed a professional contract in the summer. Kiki Oshilaja signed from Cray Valley PM rather than the AM for 25-26 season. Bryce Goff is an academy player who featured at Weston-super-Mare in midweek. Ballymakumbi was retained, and fullback Tariq Giddery signed from Hendon for 25-26. He's a more attack-minded left-sided player and is top scorer currently with 3 goals, most recently with a brace in that already mentioned 3-2 win at Hampton and Richmond. So Nigel, familiar face in the Slough back line for Stones fans, along with their gaffer and their best goal threat so far. Your thoughts on them?
Bit of a weird one that Scott Davis being listed there as a defender. I always thought he was a midfielder, but
I've been told as the years progress,
maybe,
end up sliding back further into the goal.
Yeah, I mean he is a bit of a free kick specialist, isn't he? And
wherever he plays, he could be in goal and
it's very, very Beckham-esque, isn't it? He's free kicks, and it's quite well known. So yeah, I mean obviously that's a threat, but. Yeah, and obviously they've got that experience there, and we know all about Reece, don't we, being there, and but again, I don't know if Reece has got many minutes there. I know he's been away on international duty, hasn't he? I don't know if he has, or whether he's been injured. I don't know whether Guyana did play, because obviously Dion Wall plays for Guyana as well, and he hasn't gone away, has he? So I'm just wondering whether they have had international, but I don't think he's been playing. He hasn't been a never present, which he was never sort of that in his time here either. But yeah, they've got that experience. So again, it's like we've said with these other previews, isn't it? And that's what you sort of tend to find with these teams that are mid-table. They've got that mixture of experience and the youth pushing those people. Yeah, exactly. And so that's what you want, isn't it? And they're looking just to sort of get these players in and get these experienced players to develop these sort of younger players. And hopefully it's a win-win and you can push them up the league. And I don't think they're going to be troubling the top end of the league, but they're always going to be competitive, which is the word. So again, it's just trying to, like you say, just finding that balance and that blend.
Indeed. So into the midfield, and Johnny Goddard signed on for the 25-26 season. He had a brief stint with Boreham Wood last season. Of course, he's got 2 goals this season, most recently giving his side the lead in the 5-2 home defeat to Hornchurch. Tyreek Clark signed from Poole Town. Jaden Drakes-Thomas signed from Wingate and Finchley. He also has 2 goals this season, most recently an equaliser at Weston. The first goal that the Mare have conceded at home this season, the last club in the top 1,000 plus of English professional football to concede at home. Niche stat, as Sean Connery would say, of course. Academy graduate Brian Nelson signed a professional contract in the summer. Pedro Sami is another graduate with a couple of recent senior appearances. Henry Ochieng is the new club captain and was obviously retained from last season. And Dan Roth likewise was retained from last season's squad. So Nigel, a new club captain along with some other regular faces down at Slough.
What we were saying, isn't it? You do tend to find that with these clubs, because they just are comfortable in their environment. Yeah. Sometimes it's out of location and just where they are in their football careers. I mean, like Goddard, like I say, he went away to Boreham Wood briefly last season, then ended up going back there. But sometimes you go back to these clubs because you're not comfortable as such, but you can get the best out of them, and they're just happy in their environment. And yeah, I mean, obviously there's just going through those names there. There's a few that have been there for a few years. Again, I suppose it's location-wise, Slough are sort of similar to Dorking in that respect, that they're literally in that south, they're in the middle, so it's equal distance between the West Country and the clubs in Kent, so you're not...
Corridor of certainty, I suppose, the opposite of cricket where you have the corridor of uncertainty. That's with M25.
Exactly, and you know it just suits these players, and you know if they've got outside or interest outside of football, you can sort of marry that in around it, and you haven't got these big travelling distances that some of the clubs have got going from east to west and that. So yeah, I mean, again, and it's going to be attributed to Scott Davis. I don't know how many years he's been there now. Must be 4 or 5 seasons he's been there now, isn't it? So again, you build that rapport up, and you know, like I say, you just get it where you're comfortable in your surroundings and you're comfortable with the manager, and they're all good players. No, they're not just journeymen, are they? You know, they can still offer something to the team, and they can lead by example. So that's probably why they sort of like do so well against us, because they all know their jobs, they all know their roles. There's none of this sort of like blending in and trying to get together and that. So that's why they can sort of bloody the nose of the big teams, because there's not that much expectation on them as what there is some of these teams that they're coming up against.
Exactly. So up front, and Kit Elliott came through the Chelsea and Crystal Palace youth academies. He's just completed a degree and scholarship in the US of A. Former MK Dons under-18 forward Josh Adepoju signed after impressing an elite development squad in pre-season. Jared Myers signed from Bedfont Sports. The winger scored 28 goals last season there. 2 goals this season, most recently in the 2-1 loss at Salisbury weekend just gone. Young striker Ruben Bartlett-Antwi signs after a great season with Leatherhead. 21 goals, 17 assists last season for them, after only joining in November as well. 2 goals this season in South, most recently giving his side the lead for the second time in the 5-2 home defeat to Hornchurch. 23-year-old winger Harvey Walker signs after departing Chatham Town. He saw red at Western in midweek, but he will be available for Saturday due to the 7-day turnaround on red cards at this level. Jordan Greenwich signs for 25-26, solitary goals so far this season, with the opener at home to Chippenham. Striker Victor Mikowski from Flackwell Heath, 41 goals last season, 2 this and 5 assists, most recently scoring a consolation in the loss at Torquay. Jack Timberlake and Wyatt Marin both made their first appearances of this season at Western in midweek, and academy graduate Nameka and Yamwu is the last of a trio that signed their first professional contracts this summer. So Nigel, a lot, and I mean a lot, of youngsters up front, but then a lot of goals from lower levels, and as we've already said, that's what Slough do. Exactly,
and that's exactly it. When you're going through those numbers there, you can literally see that, can't you? Yeah. You know, that's what they do. They look at they've got the numbers. They've obviously got the personality. You know, it's all right having, you know, putting the numbers up at a lower level, but you've got to scout these players. You've got to know whether they can make that step up, because sometimes these younger players, you know, they put the numbers up at the lower level, but they're a big fish in a small pond. It's whether they can make that transition up, and obviously the training is going to be that much more rigorous as well, and you're coming up against teams that are fitter, stronger, and, you know, a lot of full-time teams. So again, I suppose it's, you know, a couple of them there have got a couple of goals. There's no one sort of like hitting those same numbers, but then it is only sort of early season. So again, it's that transition, and Scott Davis, with all of his experience and that he's got in the professional game, you know, it's probably the ideal learning ground for them. And
definitely,
you know, again, coming up against a side like Maidstone, you know, if you're not, this is you know, he's going to have them well drilled, well sort of motivated to go out there and say, look, you know, we believe in you, you've got the talent, go out and perform, you know. And you know, that's probably what we've got to be a guard against. We haven't been successful at it in the past, but, you know, I'm sure, you know, like I say, we get a lot of players from them, so we're obviously looking at them players, and we're looking at, you know, we know their attributes, so it's not going to be that sort of like, we know what Scott Davis looks for in his players, don't we? So okay, it sounds easy, but it's like putting it into practice, isn't it? That's, you know, it's like all these games, isn't it? You know, there's lots of different variables all the time, and it's like, you know, just overcoming that.
Well, it's always the way at Slough, isn't it? If football was paid on paper, then Slough would be walking it, frankly, wouldn't they? So to the form of our hosts, and they've reached the FA Cup first round for the 4th time in the last 9 years. They host Altrincham next Saturday. They've knocked out Welling Bedfont Sports and Enfield Town to get there to the league. Firstly, on the road, they had defeats at Dorking, Torquay, Salisbury. That was Salisbury's first league winner this season. And Weston, of course, most recently. Draws at Tunbridge and Eastbourne. And their only away win at Hampton and Richmond. At home, they have wins against Ebbsfleet and Chippenham, a draw with Enfield, and defeats by Hemel and Hornchurch. So Nigel, a mixed set of results for Slough again this season. Your thoughts on their start?
From a Maidstone perspective, is I mentioned that FA Cup game or a few seasons ago when we played them like literally the Saturday before we played Ipswich away, didn't we? You know, looking back, we had obviously had one eye on that game, and you're going to hope from a Maidstone point of view, as I say, they're going to have one eye on the FA Cup, because obviously it's a big money spend for them. And as breaking news, Altrincham sacked their manager, the long-term manager, this morning. So yeah, you're going to wonder what kind of effect that's going to have on them, and it may have probably boosted Slough's chances, because Altrincham are struggling in the National League this season. I think they're only outside the relegation places on goal difference. So, you know, it's a big opportunity for them to get to the second round, isn't it? So, you know, whether they're going to have one eye on that, I'm sure, as I said, they're going to be motivated. I know they played a lot of the youngsters, or so-called younger players, a lot of them
at development schools.
Yeah, on Tuesday evening down at Western-super-Mare.
We'll hope for a few more to play again this Saturday then, if get a result.
Yeah,
like
so
that
you know, there's lots of permutations there, isn't there? Yeah. But it would seem as though, you know, they've been performing in the FA Cup. You know, you're talking about their form and that. You know, they're very much a form of a mid-table tie, aren't they? You know what I mean? They're not
Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, you know, win one, lose one. It's not, they can't just put a run together. And obviously the FA Cup has, you know, come at the right times, and they've got the results, and they've got the luck of the draw in there. It just kind of keeps your season sort of bubbling along, and it looks like an okay start if you reach the first round of the FA Cup, isn't it? But you know, it's just again, it's just a different sort of variation to look at, you know, in our build up to it.
So that head-to-head record we've been fretting over throughout this preview, we'll crack straight into it. The record between the two sides: 8 games over the last 6 years, 4 Slough wins, 3 of those at home. 2 Stones wins. Their only win at Arbour Park was back in 2020 during the lockdown season. A George Porter brace winning it for Maidstone. So Nigel, can you see a similar win for the Black and Amber Army come Saturday, or will it be the same old story?
Yeah, again, it's like all these, you know, I can't see, you know, no reason why we can't. We're going into it, you know, off the back of a good form, and, you know, but we always tend to play them at the same time every year, don't we? You know, that George Porter brace game you were talking about, that was lockdown. Remember, that was fireworks night, wasn't it? Or close to November the 5th, because there was fireworks going off in the highlights, wasn't there?
Yes, cameraman's nodding. Yes.
And again, when I was looking back on the season that we won the National League in 21-22. You know, we played them, it was about this time around the end of October. We played them at home. And we lost that game, didn't we? I think it was 1-0 from memory. But everyone thought that Hack was going to go after that game, and then it's literally we went Chippenham Ebbsfleet, and then we went on that amazing run, and, you know, carried us all the way to the title. So again, similar to what we were saying about the Eastbourne preview, when we was talking about that a lot of the games do tend to be sort of like sliding door moments, don't they? That were the way, and I think we played them at the day of the season once as well, didn't we? I think one game we that might have been a draw here at home.
I'm not sure. Back down from the National League. Possibly,
yeah, I think that was that first season back, wasn't it? I know we got a dodgy penalty that Sol Wanjo Smith. I haven't been Sol Wanjo Smith getting a dodgy penalty, but I do remember. We got won that game, and so again, they've always sort of been these sort of like sliding door momentum changers. So hopefully that can sort of, you know, come now, and we can sort of get a result there, and it can push us on, and, you know, because it is obviously a hurdle. You know, as a club, we you know, if you can go there and you think, well, we've got a result, we've got something from Slough, it kind of, and keeps that unbeaten run going. It kind of gives you that little bit of a lift, doesn't it, going into the, you know, the 2 big Kent derbies coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Exactly. And I'll put this out there. In the form table, they've conceded 20 goals in the last 6 league games now. That's 8 more than anyone else in the division. We've just started to start scoring goals. So my big tip, 0-0.
Yeah, but it'll be a point again.
That's true.
So they keep that unbeaten run going. So, from what we've had the last couple of seasons we've gone down there, it's hopefully it's not going to pop the balloon. It's just going to give it more air and momentum.
Pump it up. So if you can't make it to the game, be sure to tune in to Fred and myself from 2:40 on Stones Live. You'll see us on the hot take and hear us on the highlights once they go online. And Maidstone United's women are finally about to play that historic first round FA Cup match at Plymouth Argyle. Set sail for a near 500-mile round journey for a 2 p.m. kickoff this coming Sunday, the 26th of October. We will be there to cover the match. We hope you can join us down there. If you can't, myself and Ian Parkhouse will be on air on Stones Live from 1:55. The Stones hoping that they can continue that 100% start to this season. More details on these and other upcoming matches are, as always, on the club socials and website. So did you know that an arbour is a sheltered place in a garden formed by trees and bushes that are grown to partly surround it? Always putting the Allen in Titchmarsh, me. Nowhere for either side to shelter come 3 p.m. on Saturday. Slough's happy place, very much the opposite for the Stones from memory in recent years. Looking forward to seeing how this one grows. Thanks to you out there, as always, for watching or listening to the latest preview. Like and subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Just search for the Maidstone United podcast. See or hear you for our next preview ahead of the next home league game, the usual festive or Easter affair. Coming early, it's against Tunbridge Angels. And as always,
come on, you Stones!